here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of the all-female punk band from San Francisco, Frightwig, because I recently spoke to two of their members to find out more about life, love and poetry and all the other groovy stuff. Deanna Mitchell and Mia DeBruzzi. So this is the interview, and as there's two members that I'm going to be interviewing. The first one is Deanna, but she does say that herself, so you'll find out through their voices which one is which as they speak. And so, as always, after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Deanna, over to you.
Yes. I'm Deanna, and I was born in 1958, so I'm 67. And what really started it for me is a friend in high school who was into punk, to Blondie and Patti Smith, and he really turned us on. But of course, David Bowie was the penultimate. Going to high school and listening to Fame, and he was just, well, Ziggy Stardust was first, of course, but a lot of doors opened. I also like John Denver, and I still
absolutely.
do. So that was the introduction before the punk rock started in the city.
Did you have any brothers or sisters that gave you some musical kind of direction as well?
My younger brothers. My brother Harold was really into all of the really gross, big metal pig rock, which was like Leonard Skinner and stuff. And I didn't like Led Zeppelin at all, and he would just blast them. And then the youngest brother, he was really into to Kiss, which I was just like, oh God, get real. But I did come to appreciate Kiss. And in our early days, we did cover once or twice I Want to Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day. But, yeah.
Yes, there you go. And Mia, what was your musical awakening?
Well, my mom was like a proper hippie. I'm your age. I was born in 1964. And my mom was like a true vanguard hippie, really, she took all the drugs and did all the things. And so she introduced me to just all the old Crosby, Stills, Nash, and the Beatles, and Buffy St. Marie, and Jimi Hendrix, Cream, all the kind of classic rock of the 60s.
Were you on the West Coast, by the way?
I was born back east. I was born in New Jersey, but moved to the West Coast probably in 69, I guess, 68
right.
or 69. So I was young. And then she was already pretty avant-garde back east. She was kind of she was counterculture for sure. But when she came to the West, she really got involved with the hippie movement here.
Right. Did you live in a community, or did you have a bit of a community lifestyle?
During some of my childhood, we lived on a commune.
Excellent.
And it was gnarly. It was the scabies and hepatitis kind of hippie.
Oh my God.
But there was a lot of freedom there.
Yes.
For the time I lived in a more conventional situation.
Were there many kids in the community?
There were some, and everybody would run around naked in the summer, for real.
There's been a few people who've been writing books about memoirs of their childhood, living in communes, and it all sounds horrendous, actually.
There were no rules. And so, and I have two kids. I realized as a parent, my job is to make boundaries and to say this is acceptable and this isn't acceptable. Yes. And it's much harder work, I think, than just going be yourself. So I've had challenges living in the world with that kind of, that those were some formative years for me. So,
Yes. God, you'll have to write your book. Write your book about your childhood, because yes, quite a few people have, and it all sounds, it's interesting, but on one level, because my parents were very straight, and I thought, oh my God, it would have been great, but now looking back, it's like, oh, thank God they were so straight, until you get to an age where you can just go and do your own thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then hopefully at that point you have the foundation to know right from wrong and how to not be completely insane, and then how to make a life and stuff like that. That's been a challenge for me, but I'm in it. I'm doing it.
Yes, well, absolutely. So was punk then? Because I was a bit too young for punk. Were you sort of musically aware of stuff? Because often when people are in communities, they often live in a bit of a bubble, don't they? And they're all sort of stuck in the past. Did punk come into your consciousness around 78, 79?
Deanna?
Well, I think that it definitely did. I graduated in 1976, and we were coming to San Francisco, but we were going to this gay bar, The Stud. I would always be turning 21 and wearing 50s dresses and rhinestones. And then from that, it evolved into like early punk rock, like in North Beach. And it was really exciting to see these different people up there putting on these shows you've never seen before in this type of music. But I think we worked at this movie house, Mia and I did, and that was like a kind of like a big meeting place for a lot of different people, and that's where I think we really got into punk rock, or I did.
Yes. Did you go to the Troubadour or any of those venues?
In Los Angeles, yeah.
Yes.
But that wasn't in San Francisco.
Oh God, I'm in the wrong city, aren't I? That was me trying to be so smart. Anyway, what was your first gig you went to?
Well, it was Rod Stewart in 1974. The Small Faces with who's the guitar player?
Was it Jeff Beck at that time, or Steve Marriott?
No, it was who's in the Rolling Stones?
Oh, Ronnie Wood.
Ronnie Wood. And they both had
Right.
on like these satin tight pants, and they were like really cute, and it was really fun. And
Yes, and that was before he did his big Atlantic Crossing album, wasn't it? So he was still, he wasn't that huge at that point. He hadn't sort of gone full LA.
No, it wasn't
fluff.
stadium rock yet.
It wasn't quite stadium rock, yes. Then what was your first gig, Mia?
My first gig was Joan Baez at the Frost Amphitheater. And I was so moved. I was so and I was like 7, and I got her autograph. And that meant a lot to me. But my first rock show, the thing that changed my life was I saw Golden Earring and Joe Cocker at Winterland. And that was fabulous. That was like the first real rock show I saw, and it made me the woman I am today.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. But Deanna, you saw the Sex Pistols there, right?
I saw that at Winterland. Yeah.
Oh, so you were at their last ever concert that they had?
That was a crazy night. The Nuns played, the Avengers played, like our local favorite Sweethearts played, and that was the night I almost like died in the pit up front. So I never did that again. But then the after parties were like we're up in the Haight at this party, and I just remember going up the stairs, and Sid was laying on the stairs, and all these women were around him, and like he had OD'd, and it was just like, it was quite eye-opening at that time.
God, it must have. Was Nancy there as well?
No, I think that was before Nancy.
Was it? Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, because didn't she come in New York like kind of after they were done?
Can't remember actually. I think she sort of, because was that 78 then, the Winterland got the one, was that 77?
I think it was 77.
Yeah, my God, that was quite an iconic one. So when did you start playing musical instruments? When was your musical moment where you thought, I want to be in a band?
I remember. um, so
we
I
we
moved up.
shared this.
Yeah, we
Go.
did share this. We had the aha moment. I moved to San Francisco when I was a teenager in 1980, and I met Deanna at this movie theater where we both worked, and she was kind of the coolest chick I'd ever met. She still is. And she was singing in a band called the Ghouls, and I had seen them play, and it was just so cool, so cool. And then I had been singing in this kind of all-girl art damage band, and we got together and made a lot of noise, but there were barely songs. And then one day, Deanna and I were working together, and we were like, we could play instruments. It doesn't look that hard, you know. The musicians are such a pain in the ass. So we got soon after that, I think we got laid off and we got on unemployment. So it was like the first time in my life that I could have just not worked and had some time. It was winter. I lived in a warehouse, and she got a bass and I got a guitar, and we just started banging on them. And it was really fun.
Yes,
Um,
my God,
that's what
that's
I remember.
But I want to add that after like I would go to shows up to the MAB like 3 or 4 nights a week and see the shows and just like, be awestruck. And then finally at a certain point I was like, I could do this. I could do this, So um we spent that winter just kind of pounding it out, boom, 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 and just playing terribly. And the way we got our name Frightwig, you go ahead, Mia.
Okay. So my roommates at the warehouse would just some of them were actual good musicians, and we would just drive them out of the warehouse. We were not good, but that's one of the things that punk rock gave us is that we could go to these shows and see other people without, the whole like big rock thing that we were coming out of. We were almost kind of trying to destroy the guitar solo in a way because none of the punk bands bothered with that, and they were simple and simple enough for us to say like, yeah, we can do that. That didn't look daunting because it didn't look that hard. So the way
had
we
you
got
had you had you come across the Slits at that point, or are they still sort of?
I had not, and that was just my lack of education. We were not really informed, I don't think, by like people ask me about the Runaways and stuff like that, and I was just doing my own thing. Like we were just doing our own thing. I don't feel like we were really influenced by anybody when like kind of we just do our own thing.
But thinking back
Um,
to that time, it would be like you would like get a magazine from England and learn about punk rock, that was our main communication. It was we didn't have any of this technology or MTV or anything like that. It was so much more remote, all of the areas. So
Yes. No, well,
and,
absolutely. I
and
know
we,
it was very slow, and also trying to find records could be quite impossible, really. One
yeah.
spent a lot of time in charity shops or second-hand places trying
yeah.
to find a record, and it was, it was all very. It would take weeks, if not. It was a mission that you think, well, I'll try and find that album one day, but it may never happen. Whereas now you've got instant access to everything, actually, which was quite
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Did you come across many British punk bands during that period, during that late 70s time?
Well, of course, The Clash. Love The Clash so much. And of course, I really believed the Sex Pistols, like there is no future. Like I really took that shit seriously at that time, and I still do. But in in a much more adult way. But yeah, it was pretty harsh. Other English bands, I don't know, Mia. What? There were so many. Like you go.
I remember really loving Crass because of what they were standing
Yes.
for a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
And then we ended up like playing with GBH and who's that other, like when they first came over. But when we started, there wasn't, it was really arty. Like the music scene in San Francisco, it was not, now it feels, well, I don't know, the musicians and the artists and the performance artists and the filmmakers and the painters, like we all knew each other and we would all go to shows and go to openings, and it all seemed like one big kind of drug taking community, and we'd, stay out all night almost every night, and it was really fun actually in retrospect.
Did you come
um,
across many of the performance artists kind of theatre troupes that had been? Because I know there were Coquettes came from San Francisco in the sort of
yeah,
late sort of 60s into the 80s with people like Pam Tent and Fayette and various other
Yeah.
people. Were they kind of also kind of was performance artists on your radar at the same time?
We
yeah,
really
they were.
we really
Go.
overlapped, like with from my days with my high school friends who turned out to be gay, which it wasn't really that determined at that point, going to the Castro and seeing, like, I remember being at parties with the Angels of Light, which came off of
The Coquettes, yeah.
the
Yes.
Coquettes, and we have always been so involved in the gay community and drag queens and trans. Like, we love these people and have been welcomed and have, been inside some parties, and been accepted and, treated well back. So,
Did you come across the other rock band that sort of 70s, Fanny, that was around at that point? I don't know what city they came from, but they were quite big, weren't they? And David Bowie loved them.
They were
And
amazing. Yeah, that was before we started Frightwig.
yes,
But we did end up at a convention with them, and it was a big honor, to share that with them. And yeah,
when
who
was
amazing.
that? Was that
Pardon?
like 2015 or
It was
20?
a long time ago. It was the one
Yeah.
in Texas.
Yeah, the Austin.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And who came up with, did you say who came up with the name Frightwig, by the way?
Oh,
Oh,
Mia's boyfriend.
yeah. He was a little older than me, and I was like 18, and I was, always dressing up and always putting a bunch of makeup on and never washing it off at the end of the night. And then one morning I woke up and he said, "You look like a fright wig." And I had never heard the term before, but I guess it's a kind of older vernacular American, of, just a woman she's all dressed up, but she's kind of a mess.
Like, her tights
You know,
are ripped, her lipstick's
yeah,
it was a slang term in the 50s, I think.
Right. Yes, there you go. And did you, during that period, we had punk. I mean, there was always like tribal bits going on, but there was that sort of post-punk period with bands like we had, the Nightingales and The Fall and Wire, Gang of Four, people like that. And then sort of as we kept into the 80s, that scene started to change and we'd had sort of, there was, I don't know, goth, there was psychobilly, there was, that new romantic scene. How were you sort of navigating sort of, because the band started in around 82, didn't it? And at that point, kind of the music scene was changing again, wasn't it? Punk was kind of started to feel like quite a long way off, and those bands had mostly broken up by then, hadn't they? The Sex Pistols definitely had, and people like the Buzzcocks and Clash were coming to the end of their first moment in life. What was it like trying to think about, wow, here we are about to kind of get onto the music scene?
For us as a band, or
Yes.
I mean, the thing was, you hit the nail on the head. All of a sudden there were like all these different genres of bands, like death rock and um speed metal and art rock. Like, it was, you'd go to a show and you would see like different types of bands, not bands that all sounded alike and looked alike. That's kind of boring, but it was, for us, it was we were pretty much welcomed immediately because we're all women. We were young and, kind of hot, and we were a novelty. So we were invited to play a lot of shows immediately. We were not the best musicians, but we did try and put on a show, which wasn't hard because we had tits. So, what do you
did you have tunes as well as tits?
Tunes and tits. We provided all of them. Well, our first album
there was two of you in a warehouse trying to keep warm one winter.
Yeah.
When did you start to develop the rest of the band? When did other members start to appear?
Well, we got our first drummer, who was this little motorcycle chick who was really great, and we love her forever. She's passed on now, and she was just this tough little chick, and she could drum, but she was very stage shy. So our first show, so we got a studio eventually, and we had a show right across the street in the Tenderloin, in a very, very bad area of San Francisco. And all we had to do was move our stuff across the street and go play our show. And she got stage fright and she couldn't do it. So we needed a different drummer. So we went through a couple of different drummers and we were really very fluid with our lineups. We had two bass players for a while. We had a drummer who didn't play with a snare for a while, or stand-up drummer. And it was very arty. And then we found Cecilia, who ended up being like that third pillar. And so when she came on,
I think she found us because she was coming to our shows. She was helping us move the drums home because Rachel, our drummer, would leave and not move her stuff. Like, she really wanted to be in the band. And so, like you say, Mia, like our third pillar, we were just a really great match.
And it was good. And that's when we got to record an album and do all, the early touring and stuff like that. That's when it really clicked.
Was your first album on Subterranean Records?
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Cat Farm.
And it was the first colored cover. And I just remember talking to Steve Tupper. It was a painting one of my roommates did with nail polish and glitter, and this image of a woman with a cigarette and a drink glass. And I remember talking to Tupper and just holding it out and with my head down because they'd never done a color cover that's more expensive. And then he agreed to do that. And that was great. He's just such a sweetheart person.
Nice. So when you started to think about putting that album together, how were you sort of putting your tracks together? Were you coming together as a band, writing or jamming together, or was there one person doing a lot of the writing or someone doing the music?
I remember it being a big collaboration, and I really, really enjoyed that. Like we'd just get in the studio and start fucking around, basically, and then we'd make something out of it, and we'd make something from nothing. And I remember it all being a collaboration, even if, for instance, Cecilia, the drummer, would come in she was more of a musician than I was. So she would come in with more of a clear idea of how her song went, but we would still add what we could and come up with stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So who came up, great title, My Crotch Doesn't Say Go. How did that song originate? Did you come up with the title first, or did you come up with the lyrics or the music?
That's a Cecilia song, and I think she had it in her head what she wanted. Yeah.
And she was a knockout, so she was always getting a ton of attention. She was a tall blonde beauty, like Jerry Hall type, right?
Right.
But with a face of an angel. So I think she really felt that song because I think she was pursued a lot.
Right. There you go. So did you rehearse and play these songs quite a bit before you went into a studio?
We did. We rehearsed every day for a month before we recorded. No drinking, no smoking. Well, I smoked cigarettes, but no partying. And the thing about Mia, Cecilia, and I, my perspective is from those days is we were so committed to doing this and to being good at it. And we gave up a lot of other things to focus on this. And I can say that because I did like drugs, I did like speed, and that's what playing in the band had. I couldn't keep beats, so it took a minute, but I stopped doing that because I wanted Frightwig to, be a vehicle I could ride in. And we were just the three of us really focused on this project. And I don't see that as much from some people or some young musicians, but there's some out there that are really, I see that spark and that drive.
Yes. And what studio did you go to for the album?
Hyde Street.
Yeah,
we recorded at Hyde Street Studio.
Right.
We recorded from midnight to 8 a.m. Was it 3 nights, Mia, or 2 nights? 3 nights?
I think it was maybe 3 nights, but I don't know how much we got done on the last night. I think, anyway, it was cheaper from midnight to 8, and there were stimulants involved.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And who was your producer for that album? Or engineer?
So Gary Kryman was the engineer, and he produced it with Steve DeMartis and also Philip Lithman, who also went under as Snakefinger. He's English, dear old friend. He's passed on now, but he did a band called Snakefinger, and he was also in The Residents.
Oh, right.
And he's a lovely, lovely man.
And did you enjoy the experience of being in the studio, by the way?
Oh yeah, I did. Did you, Deanna?
Of course I did. It was, but because we had really practiced, we were able to come in and we were playing to a metronome, which is pretty fucked up. But Cecilia was able to do that. And we got in, we took care of our business and got out. We generally, when we've had that opportunity, are pretty good about it because everything's money related, right?
Yes.
And, so yeah, it was a great experience.
And what was it like in the USA at that point? Because in the UK, that early 80s, we had Thatcher come in, we had the Falkland War, then there was this miners' strike, which really divided everybody. There was also Greenham Common and lots of women sort of at the airbase, campaigning against nuclear war and nuclear bombs. So it was it was quite a tense time, and it all felt a little bit doomed and gloomed, unlike now. And so what was it like in America? Because you had Reagan, but you also had, I don't know, you had MTV. There was a little bit of optimism we could see from America. Looked a bit more like you had more money. You had Dallas, didn't you? You had great television. What was it? But politically things were quite tense at that time.
I think from a woman's perspective, those times were better because we had Roe v. Wade. We had those protections. If we needed to help, in many ways, we could get it without it was legal to get an abortion if you needed. Women's rights were much more upfront and being accepted. So from that perspective, from a woman's view, that didn't hurt too much. But politically, it was just sad, seeing things that Reagan would do and cutting programs, cutting millionaires' taxes down. And but in those days, it was still pretty good. My parents, they're, thriving with their middle class income and had vacations and had health care. And these things weren't being depleted yet. So personally, that it was a better time for us than the last 20 years, really.
And what was the feminist movement like in America during the early 80s? Was that because obviously I do remember sort of a lot of people doing Reclaim the Night marches, and there was the women's centres, and there was quite a kind of big movement. I mean, coming off people like Germaine Greer, there was, people read her book, and there was various other sort of feminist literature, and people were starting to sort of really tune into, I don't know, challenging ideas. I wondered what it was like in America.
I think we felt like we were part of a counterculture movement, and like the Reagan years really scooped out social services really badly, especially in San Francisco, and it was the beginning of a pretty bad turn as far as that's concerned, as far as getting people who needed help with their mental health, the support that they need, and stuff like that. Um, I think Frightwig, we were one. I don't know, as an all-female band, like we did not care about what people thought about, we weren't pandering, we weren't presenting ourselves, and we were really programmed. Like, people born around when we were born. And Deanna, tell me if you think what you think about this. Like, I feel like we were really programmed as women to serve. We were programmed to present in a certain way just to be accepted. And I know for myself, in a really deep place, Frightwig was about really rejecting that and being really, really, really bold and really forthright about, like, we're not pandering. We're not doing this for you. And for instance, in those days, we would get on stage and people, the guys would catcall and be all, show us your tits, show us your tits. And we turned it around and it worked. We turned it around to telling the men to get up on stage and strip for us. And they would. And so that was indicative of what Frightwig does to turn the status quo around, because it was so inherent in the culture that women act a certain way and women present a certain way, and it still is.
Yes, well, absolutely. But you were only 18 when you brought that first album out, weren't you? That you were still very young.
Yeah, I think it came out in 84, so I was 20.
Oh, 20.
So that's old,
Yeah.
But then, there was a lot of changes. Was your mother still very much part of the counterculture movement in the 80s?
Oh, my mom went off the rails. So my mom went off the rails early on.
Okay.
So there wasn't a lot of support there for me.
Right.
And my mom was a hardcore racist from Oklahoma and very repressed. So, I mean, we kind of came from such different backgrounds. But it's like I think one thing with Frightwig is that Cecilia, Mia, and I, like, we came from not the best upbringings. And I think we rebelled against that. And I know personally, I was so fucking repressed, and, your dress should be below your knees, and bend over, let me make sure you can't see your underwear. Like, as a child, my mom made a dress, and I had to go in front of my dad and bend over to make sure you couldn't, it's just like, oh my God, it took a lot. It took a lot to get, but, naturally that wasn't my nature. And as far as like people, like human beings, I never really understood the racism, the violent, and also she was a suppressed female. Like, she kind of exploded in her own ways, and there were a lot of ugly scenes at our house. And I moved out the day I turned 18 and got away. And Frightwig, like, we were fearless. Like, there was this TV show called Laverne and Shirley. And I always said Mia and I were Laverne and Shirley, like, give us any chance, we'll take it. But we were, the most beautiful part is that we were free. Like, we could do whatever we wanted, and we did. And we didn't take shit from anyone. And we would get catcalled on stage. Like we were playing up in Vancouver with GBH, and it was popular to spit on people, like bands. And Mia had bronchitis, and I could spit really far. And we're up on this tall stage, and we're playing, and they're like spitting on us, trying to spit on us. And so we'd back up, and then we'd come back to the corner of the stage and hawk a loogie on them, and then back up. And we weren't proper ladies, and we're still not proper ladies. But
so when the album came out, did you start touring a little bit further afield than San Francisco at this point?
Oh man, we were so ahead of the game. We didn't wait for the album to come out. We recorded it in 3 nights, and we had the Butthole Surfers had been in town, and they saw us play, and they were like, "Hey, we're playing in the East Coast. Come in and play with us. Come and join our tour." And we're like, "Okay." So we used Cecilia's compact car with our guitars in the middle of the car and drove straight to New York in 3 days and got there and got to the nightclub, and we're getting out and talking to the owner, and he's like, we're playing with the Buttholes tonight. And he's like, you're not on the show. You're not playing with the Buttholes. So that was a kind of an awakening there. But our album was being worked on when we were in New York at that period.
Right. Did you get to play New York? Did you go to CBGB's or Max's?
We played CBGB's. We played not Max's. We played.
The Mud
We
Club?
played. That was a little before us, but we played Danceteria. We played the Ritz. We played the Pyramid. We played a lot of clubs.
My God. That's fantastic. And then
Yeah.
then did you start sort of touring more once the album was out?
We did. We did a national tour. We did we do 2 national tours, Mia,
We did
before you
too.
left?
Yeah, and then we went up to Vancouver.
We
Went
loved
down.
going up
I remember going to Mexico, but we didn't play in Mexico. But I remember going there. We
No,
played with
but
the Mentors. Oh my God.
have you ever heard of this band, The Mentors? They're so repulsive. They were just the worst men. And it's like my woman from Sodom, she likes it on the bottom. We're going through your purse. They had the most vile material, and they were just these ugly, fat-bellied men. And we thought they were funny as shit. And we did get a backlash from the feminist community up in Oregon about playing with them. But what we did was we were the tormentors for the night, and they're the mentors. So down in Tijuana, we got wrestling masks, and we got a fifth of mezcal. And so we played Fleetwood Mac Dreams.
Nice.
For that's the only thing we played, and we've got these masks on, and we're drinking the booze on stage, and the singer El Duce is running around freaking out because we're doing Fleetwood Mac song, just not stopping it.
Badly,
And he ended up unplugging us from the soundboard. But that would the Clash were there that night. A lot of LA's finest were there. We did bring out people because they were interested in this young girl band that's pretty crazy.
Yes, well, absolutely. It sounds exciting times. So then, once the album's out and you've promoted that, when do you start sort of thinking, right, we got to get a second album? Is there any lineup changes at this point in the band?
Yeah. I got married the 2 days after I turned 21, and I married a man I probably shouldn't have married. And he was super controlling, and I thought I knew everything. And eventually, it took about 6 months, but I really wanted to have a family because I had a kind of crappy family growing up. And I was going to fix that by having my own family. Again, I knew everything.
Yes.
And this man who I married, who I hadn't known that long, actually, and Deanna totally saw what was going on, but I knew everything and I wasn't listening. Anyway, I ended up quitting the band because he wanted me to quit the band. And I ended up having a baby, which actually turned out to be a really good thing for me personally. The following year, I had a daughter, and that really put an end to my super self-destructive behavior.
Right.
So it was a good thing. I was a really good drug user before I got pregnant. So in the long run, I think it was a really good thing. that I had my daughter. She's going to turn 40 this year, so she's big.
Oh my God.
I know, it's crazy. But anyway, I left the band, and then they pulled an old friend of ours who was playing guitar with us as a second guitar before I left. And then Deanna found another guitar player who's wonderful, who we still play with to this day. And they did the second album, which is mwah. The second album is a masterpiece, and I wish I had been on it.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, that's what happened. And then
So you had Rebecca and Susan on guitars.
Yeah.
So we were in New York and we're staying at Susan Miller's cat farm. We called it Cat Farm. That's how we named the album. It was on 3rd Street, the Hells Angels block in the Lower East Side, and it was a basement apartment. And we admired Susan. She played in this band, The Tanks, in San Francisco. She was really cool. And so she joined us, and it was the 4 of us, and this sounds really good. And then, Mia left, and that was heartbreaking. And we were lined up to go to Europe to open for DOA. And so Mia left right before we went to Europe. And so it was just the 3 of us. And we got through that, and we toured back. We met Rebecca in Los Angeles, her boyfriend, who played in Celebrity Skin. They're such a fabulous band. We loved them so much. But he hooked us up with Rebecca, and then we started playing together and got the next record out. And then we're going on tour. We're on tour. Susan's like, we're in Philly, and she's eating cheesesteaks 3 times in 24 hours. We're in Philadelphia. We get home from tour. She's 6.5 months pregnant. So then Frightwig falls down again. And then it's Cecilia and Rebecca and I. And we kept going for a while. And Cecilia was just sick of it. And Rebecca and I kept going. And we went through, I think, about 3 more drummers. And our last national tour was in 1989. And we had Roman Coppola's band, Francis Ford Coppola,
Yes.
his son Roman, his band Three Bear Buzz opened for us. And he was touring in his family's 60s Volkswagen bus.
Nice.
Our van, which kept on breaking down on tour. And our drummer Dana at the time, and she was like a glitter rock lesbian. So she's in stonewashed jeans and like a glitter vest. That is not Frightwig. We don't wear stonewashed jeans. We wear black jeans. And so we're on this. She bought us a motorhome to tour in. So we have our amps in the middle of the walkway in the motorhome. So you had to crawl over those. Rebecca got our helper, our roadie, and that was Inger, and she weighed about 100 pounds, and she had full makeup and jewelry and hair. She couldn't carry anything, so Rebecca and Inger would be in the back of the motorhome having fun, and I would be up front with Dana. And like we were take off on tour, and Dana's like going to the lesbian bars, and we're sitting in a club for a few hours after sound check while she goes to the lesbian bar. And that didn't last long. Like she had a girlfriend we were friends with in San Francisco, and it was just like, you can't just dump us and go off. It was the most horrible tour. And like we're in New York, and we're playing CBGBs, and Carlo McCormick, who's a pretty famous writer. What is his what's the weed magazine forever?
High Times.
High Times, like was an editor there. He's written a lot of stuff. But I just remember standing outside with Carlo, and he's like, "What's with your drummer? She's in dolphin shorts." Like she had on these pale blue dolphin shorts. And it just was not a good mix. She had a headset mic, and she was really not a great singer, so I would have them turn off her mic from the soundboard so we wouldn't hear her. And I was just like, I just wanted to get home, and I was so fucking done with Frightwig. It's like I've been through. I'm the one who's played every show and been there all of the times, and it was just like, I'm not doing this anymore, you know. And
Well,
then
quite.
biologically, I was like, I want to have a baby. I want to do the next thing in life now. So I did that in 92.
Right. So you sort of got into the 90s. Did you come to Europe and the UK with Frightwig?
We've never been to the UK. You know,
But
that's kind of
we're ready to
sad, don't
come
you think?
now.
It's rather sad, don't you think? And you know what? We just had 2 UK T-shirt orders. Do you know how much it costs to send a fucking T-shirt now? It's just crazy.
$30?
How about what? No,
$30
no, it's more like 70 by the tariffs.
Yes, I know. It kills. But did you also you worked with or open or played with buttholes? Did you also tour with Red Cross as well?
We did short jaunts with them, but like Danceteria in New York, we played with Red Cross. We still try and play together when we can. They asked us to play last year, but we weren't able. Here, they came for a San Francisco show, but we just love them and have played together as much as possible.
Yes. Did you see their documentary, which was quite amusing?
Yes, yes.
So
I did not know that Steve was kidnapped at 12, and you know, the girlfriend who's 20 says that she's pregnant with his baby. Like, I've met his parents. Like, his parents go to every show in Los Angeles, and they're so lucky to have had these parents, and they're still really close. Yeah, did you obviously saw it?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I was a bit blimey, I'd never come across that story before.
I know, I
That
know.
was a bit. So how did
And wait, let's talk about Red Cross a little more. And I didn't know that Jeff was on heroin. And I'm
no.
just like, you know, it's kind of like Roddy Bottom, his book that's out, um, The Royal We. Like, he was on heroin. I didn't
Yes.
know that. Like, that's been an eye opener this past
Yes,
year, learning.
I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago about the book as
Ah,
well. So he is
nice.
yeah,
such a charming chap, actually.
he
Yeah.
So
is.
yeah, I know. But yes, I mean there was. So I'm in New York during the 70s and early 80s because Adele Berthet just brought her book out on that period. There was a lot of drugs, hard drugs. Did you manage to sort of avoid the hard drugs, or did you also slip into that world during the 70s and early 80s?
I was all about it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've been in recovery for 29 years now, so that's the direction I went. But before then, I had 20 good years of lots and lots. And you know, people react to it different ways. Different people get into it in different ways. But
Yeah,
it was very available, and it was really different times too. You know, for instance, both of my kids have been through Just Say No to Drugs, the like sex and drug education, like 6 times during their public, you know, like their state school.
yeah.
You know, but we didn't. It was cooler to do drugs, I think, when we were young than it is now. The young people now, it's not so cool.
Yes,
It's
God.
nice to see. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
like,
it's good.
um, I was talking to this friends, they're 15 and they're in this punk rock band. It's 3 women and um, they're called Bitch Fit. I really like them a lot. But I was asking them about the drugs you know, in their genre and their scene. And they're like, you know, oh, people aren't doing that and people aren't drinking, you know, which is, I love to hear this. I mean, when we were coming up, the music was, if you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. It was before AIDS. It was before we really saw the repercussions of the hard drugs. And yeah, I will say that Frightwig is the reason I didn't become like a pregnant teenage speed freak or something. Well, I wasn't doing that then, but yeah, the drugs are gross. Let's move on, please.
Yes, let's do. So just roughly, because you got to sort of 92, the music scene changed a lot during the 80s, didn't it? We had sort of like different little bits in the UK. We had the mainstream, but we had all the indie stuff, like the Smiths came along and then they broke up. And then we had that sort of shoegaze, and there was a lot of electronic music coming out of various clubs like the Orb and 808 State and a guy called Gerald. And you had the Detroit house sound. But then there was also the grunge scene that started to appear in Seattle during the late 80s and into the 90s. Did that world of Nirvana sort of come into your orbit at all or on your radar?
Well, I remember Nirvana. My first husband, Stefan Shirazi, who's a music journalist, he pretty much a heavy metal journalist. He was covering Nirvana, and I was at home, like I was pregnant, I had the baby. I could have went to see Nirvana at the Coliseum, like Kurt hadn't told Stefan bring Deanna, but I'm at home with my baby and I'm not in the game at all. I'm really fat. I'm really I'm listening to country music. I like Nirvana to me, honestly, because I did go see them with Stefan and with James Hetfield, Metallica, at this kind of small club in the city, and it was just like this loud cacophony of noise, and it was like I come from 10 years of punk rock, and it's like, this isn't anything new. Like, this is not amazing to me. I mean, they were amazing, beam solid beam, but I wasn't that blown away because we kind of have lived that. And but the more straight mainstream world who hadn't been in the belly, they had a big awakening there. So
yes. So then 92, do you then say that's it, Frightwig are over?
Well, you can never really say that, but you might think it for a few years. So
yes.
Yeah, well, I did think, I had my kid, I was 32, and I don't do a lot of things well. So I just really focused on my kid and wanting to be a good mother and a good partner. And that marriage didn't last, but the second one has for almost 30 years now. When did we play again, Mia? Was it 96?
No, I think we went to Switzerland in 95, and you were doing the booking agency. I was doing a band called Mud Women, and actually we played with Nirvana. They opened for us.
Right.
Shake your hair when you say that, Mia. We played with Nirvana. We played with Nirvana.
They opened for us. But so I was in the game during that whole time, the whole flannel era. And touring a lot, and then I think that Frightwig, we got back together as a three-piece with Bambi drumming in 95, I think, because
we got together first with Cecilia.
Yeah, but
94.
94 maybe. Yeah.
She was just sorry.
No, Mud Women went to Europe in 94, and
yes.
I guess that's when it started with Cecilia, but she was already living in Grass Valley. I think Cecilia was living 4 hours drive away, and she didn't want to do it. But then she came back in, and we had a really, really special final chapter with her.
Well, I'm not surprised. But with Mud Women, so you've had the baby, and then you're now in a new band in the 90s.
I never stopped playing.
No.
I had the baby, but I never stopped playing. I really like the actual act of playing music. It feeds my soul, so I need to do it. And so I came back in 89, and we tried Frightwig, and for some reason it didn't work. But then I started playing with Mud Women and some other stuff, and then Mud Women did a few albums, and we did a bunch of touring.
Blimey, that is impressive. So you navigated your 90s quite well, didn't you, with a band?
90s, yeah, they were good. I had a rocky road for my personal life, which funny enough culminated in me deciding to get a grip, get a life, be a grown up, go back to university, and then I went on an exchange program to study industrial design at Brunel University in West. They called it West London, but it was west of London, and so I did that, and by mistake met my partner, and we started a band, even though we still got our degrees, and so we've been married since 2001. So
Nice.
so
So
that's a fun story.
so you met in London, your husband doing a degree?
Well, yeah, we met at Brunel. So
Brunel.
it was in Egham, or it's in Runnymede, actually, of all places. And so I lived there for 2 years, and got my degree from there. But we had a band, and we would do Battle of the Bands. Uh,
Nice.
and it's funny because that's not really a thing here, but in the university, system, it was a big deal, and they didn't, it was they didn't know what to do with me until we started winning Battle of the Bands, and then they decided they loved the weird, mature American.
My
um,
God, that
but
is God. I'm just impressed with this next band that you were in with a child, and then came to the UK as well.
yeah, it was a good stroke of luck for sure.
Yes,
And
because the 90s is very strange musically, isn't it? Because it starts quite well, and Kurt Cobain's comes over as a nice person. It ends Woodstock '99.
right.
That's quite horrendous.
But you know what made me believe in rock and roll again in the late 90s was Muse. The
Oh,
first album of Muse blew my mind. And I still remember seeing it on like a little TV, that we're hiding from, because we're not paying the license. But it really blew my mind. And that first album remains one of my favorite albums.
nice. My God. So that was so during the 90s. So you were in the UK in the 90s, is that right?
1999 is when I went.
So yes, that was kind of the high. I mean, that was when the UK was quite cool as well. We had, the
It was so
new.
cool.
It was there was money, there was optimism, everybody was happy.
Yeah,
Just
the Bill and Tony show, right? Everything was going to be okay. It was going in the
we
right direction. But
yeah.
it was funny because I went there and it was this kind of strange little campus, which was only studying industrial design, it was a really well regarded program at the time in Europe, and it had an exchange program, the Erasmus program, and everything. And I brought my electric guitar and my bicycle. And I brought the electric guitar because I needed to play, but also because I knew that England produces these amazing guitar players. So I was all excited. And I got there, and all they're playing is techno music.
Right.
Really loud, really loud. And I was so like, oh my God, make it stop, make it stop. I didn't enjoy it at all. And it was super loud. I was living in the dorms. And then one day I was sharing, a kitchen, and I just kind of said, "Aren't there any guitar players? Like, where are the guitar players?" And one skinny white boy said, "I've got a guitar. It's in my room." And then we started playing guitar together. And
Fantastic.
he's the father of my son.
God, that is a movie just there, isn't it?
Talk about your son, Mia. What's he doing?
So we had a son in 2005. He's going to turn 21 this year, which is crazy. And it was like my last egg, basically. Like my kids are 19 years apart. And anyway, he's good, and he's both myself and my husband we're pretty much guitar players, although my husband kind of plays everything. And our son has turned out to be an amazing musician, and he plays only classical music. He plays in the orchestra.
Fantastic. That is so nice.
It's
And
cool. It's funny.
he's at UCLA in the Herb Alpert music program. Like, is he first chair in his second year there now?
He's in his third year, and apparently his first chair got usurped by a master's student this year. So
He must be
Nice.
upset.
no, he's
Nice.
fine with it. He's
But
fine with it.
the thing with Leon, Mia and Paul's son, is he grew up playing music with them from the toddler on, and and it's just like Mia and Paul's music is not classically based. and to see this product they've produced, they're really close, and he's so talented, and he's sweet, and he's just beautiful to look at, and yeah, it's really nice to
God,
see
it's a
this.
lovely story, that one.
Yeah.
It's up there with your moment that you sort of met your husband. So then that's the 90s with Mud Women. Then you come back to America. Then does Frightwig, do you sort of meet up again? Does the band start to reform?
We did.
Not for a while.
Yeah. We did. Paul and I did a band with Deanna's husband for a while, and we were really like, we need to practice. And we would bring our son to practice. And that was the only time he was allowed to play Minecraft. So we'd put, the good headphones on and
Yes.
set up with the Minecraft. So, and anyway, we recorded some EPs, and then just everybody did other stuff. But then Deanna, we started playing again in 2012. Was that right?
Yeah, did we not play in the 2000s at all?
I don't remember. I had
The- I think we attempted it with Cecilia in like 2004,
yeah.
and it really turned out that she just wanted to be with us and process her marriage crap, and we would just get together and talk, remember? And then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to quit this time because I'm raising my kid. I can't do this.
Right.
And then we were really, really lucky. In 2012, we were invited to play a punk rock reunion here in San Francisco. And so we agreed to play one show. Cecilia was going to play one show, and we played, and then we're like, well, let's play another show. And we were invited to play a lot of different fun events, and we started playing with Eric Drew Feldman.
Yes.
He produced our second album, Faster Frightwig, and he felt like we never got the recognition we deserved. But you have a short window when you're young where you can climb that ladder, and we didn't play for over a decade, and it just so he played keyboards with us, and Rebecca joined us as much as she could, and we had some really nice years. We went up the coast to Vancouver. We didn't make it into Vancouver. We went to the West Coast and did a week long, or the East Coast also, and we
Yes.
recorded some music with him. And
Did
then
then Cecilia passed away, didn't she?
Yeah. Yeah.
she
And
had cancer. You go. Sorry, Bia.
no, yeah, she passed in 2017, and it was just horribly ironic in that, or not ironic, it was just terribly fucked. And she was the person who always really looked after herself. And I was just like, God, there's no justice. And I already know there's no justice, but she didn't want to die. She was a beautiful person. I learned so much from her, and I still kind of talk to her all the time. Like, she lives in my heart, and I kind of do a what would Cecilia do in this instance, because she was always really good about looking after her own best interest and not getting lost in other people's desires and stuff like that.
Right.
She was great, and it's
Yes.
fucking awful that she died so young.
God, yes, it's always a
But
shocker.
the thing, the really positive is that, because she, like, when we were young, she didn't like the stage. Well, she loved the stage, but she wasn't as open. But when we started playing in 2012, she was so happy to be there, and she was so like into people, and she wasn't as open when we were young. None of us really were, but we got to have this time together, and she got to do what she loved. Like, when when she wasn't playing in Frightwig, she worked for the gas company for 5 years. And then when she moved up north with her husband, she worked as a county clerk at a courthouse. She, really good at her game, her business game, being a good little work dog like we all are. But coming back and getting this attention and having this fun and being creative, and she's just like, the three of us were really the perfect combo.
Yes.
So,
That's yes, it's always a bit hard really when friends die. It's not good, is it?
have you heard her song "Shine Your Light"?
No.
Okay, well, that's required that you listen to that.
I will.
And then email us and let us know what you think.
I will.
When she passed, her husband gave us a recording that she did at a hippie house party 20 years ago, and she's playing piano and singing, and it's the most beautiful piece. And Eric took it and made it presentable, and we recorded it. We put it on our album that came out a couple years, We Need to Talk.
Yes.
And in addition to that, we made a 45 of her 2 songs. One is called Possum, and it's instrumental. But so she has a gold 45, and then there's her picture on the front cover, this beautiful kind of just, what is the rendering of like Maxfield Parrish, we'll say.
It's a muka kind of, it's like a Art Nouveau.
Yes.
Art Nouveau.
Yes, that I know who you talk. Yes, that's the one. Yeah. He's got that amazing stain though. Is it the couples kissing kind of? Is that?
It's that era.
It's but that look. Yeah.
Yes,
it's like the Czech kind of, beautiful woman with long hair kind of a thing. It's a fin de siècle.
Yes.
Just Google it, Cecilia Frightwig.
I'm looking
Shine
at
Your
it.
Light, and you'll see the image. It's so cool. It's really pretty.
I can see it. It's so available from your stall.
We have honored her, and we've missed her so much. And our drummer Tina, who is the most amazing drummer, and she's almost like prog rock. Like Cecilia was definitely punk rock, but she is also a trained vocalist, and so she has sung it at our shows a few times, like when we played with Babes in Toyland,
right?
When we played with the Go-Go's a few months ago, and she has the most beautiful voice. But it's kind of like, now it's kind of, I feel like it's time we kind of move on from Cecilia. We have honored her, and we'll always talk about her and miss her. But we have new songs, so we don't have time to play that.
So that was obviously, and then 2017, horrendous. Then we had COVID, really horrendous. Well, just boring. So what's the state of the band? Are you just kind of in some frozen state at this point in the?
I didn't want to play anymore. I did not want to play anymore, and it took a few years. And meeting Tina. Well, we met Tina in 2019.
Yeah,
because I know it was a couple years before I was like, okay, we need to play.
So that was 2019 and with Tina, but then we have COVID for like 2 years. Do you start to then, when do you start thinking, let's get the band? It's like the Magnificent Seven, isn't it? The return. When did you think we need to do this again? Otherwise we're all just going to grow old and have regrets.
We're never going to grow old. Our bodies may die, but our minds are not going to. We didn't need to. We wanted to, and we wanted to just not play with Eric, his keyboards and his production. I feel like He's the most, you can't put this in your interview either. This is private. Like it's just so much better to just be the guitars and the drum, and we're in charge, and we don't need a man guiding us on our song playing. But we've done a lot in the last couple of years.
So when you thought there was the three of you again with Tina, when did you start to think about the album We Need to Talk?
We had material we'd recorded with Cecilia that we wanted to have that released, and that's all Eric's recordings. And a friend of ours started a label with two other men. It's called Label 51.
Yes.
And I was at a wedding party at a reception, and Andy had flown into town for the party and was talking about the label. And I was like, I think we have like an album's worth of material. So he put that out, and we got to have they bought a pressing plant in
Poland.
In Poland, yeah. So they're making money from that.
So
but not from us, but So we have an open. We're working on now our first two albums being remastered and re-released on the label. And
fantastic, because this is a new label. And he's got Rain Parade, Dream Syndicate. So he's going for the classic 80s, and Sid Griffin. So
he's got a wide variety. They're crazy. They just are and each of the three men have their own genre style.
Yes.
And they have Flatiron Recordings, which is like the proper, more commercial, I'll say. And then Label 51 is for like the punks and the freaks. And it's these men a little bit older than us, well, maybe, who are getting to relive their childhood now.
Well, it sounds like they're with cash.
Exactly.
The inheritance came. The inheritance came through.
Which is nice, and we're doing a new album for them.
Yes.
And that's really exciting.
So playing live again, did you enjoy getting out on stage?
Frightwig's the most fun for me. Like I play in a lot of different projects, and Frightwig is the one that is by far the most fun. And I always want to play with Frightwig. So,
what other bands are you in?
I was a professional busker for a long time, and so I did that for a living for many years. And so then kind of by extension, I'll do some cover band stuff.
Right, classics.
And just stuff. And so right now I'm doing a country western band and then a weird experimental band with a friend of mine who just kind of brings people together, and then you see what you get. But it's really fun because we'll go into the studio and do that and record an album, and have the people you never met before. So that's pretty fun. That's called the Richie White Orchestra.
Fantastic.
But Frightwig's my favorite.
Well, absolutely. And you've got concerts and festivals coming up this year?
We're gonna play this party. It's called the 420 Party on April 18th. It's up in Santa Rosa by Napa, and it's a family's farm, and they put on this event once a year, and a lot of our friends' bands are playing, and it's just you camp, and they have the best food and the best drinks, and I really wanted to play that. My husband played it last year, but the thing that's really nice is we're playing July 19th at Mosswood Meltdown, which is a pretty big outdoor event here over in Oakland, and Iggy Pop's playing on the Saturday. And then on Sunday is Bikini Kill, and we're playing on that Sunday. So I worked really hard to get that show. I wanted to do it for over 2 years, and I got it for us. So
you did it, yeah.
Oh my God, that's quite a big gig, isn't it, on that one?
It is. It's a nice one, and I'm really busy with work this year. We have 2 elections, and my part-time retirement job is working for the department, which I've done for the last 20 years part-time. So a lot of work and recording an album. We're not in the studio yet, but our songs are really coming along, and that's so exciting. And it's totally like this album, it's going to be everything we want at our ages to share. And it's diverse material, and it's not like I'm not doing Crazy World again. It's more, I think, introspective in some ways. And Mia has her song Big Daddy and Snack and a Nap, or two that she's brought to the table. Do you want to talk about them, Mia?
Yes, what are these?
Yes, what are they, Mia? Like,
Well, I wrote a song called Big Daddy Blues, and it's basically so it's basically about the end of the patriarchy and how the patriarchy is obsolete and Big Daddy, your day's over.
Big Daddy, your days are through.
So that's kind of a blues-oriented song, done punk rock about the end of the patriarchy, because I welcome the end of the patriarchy, and I want to make clear it's not I love men. We all love men.
Yeah.
We can't live without men.
We love some men.
Yeah.
Some men we wish we're not here. That's polite. Sorry.
We could put them on a rocket.
Ugh, if only.
But it's the system, the patriarchal system, that I think needs to change. And Frightwig feels like that's not working, and it's time to switch it up, switch the paradigm entirely. And that's kind of what we're all talking about and what we're working towards. And that's in our mission statement. We actually have a mission statement. So that song's about that. It's about switching the end of the patriarchy. And then the other song that has come up is just kind of talking about, and again, this is a generalized man thing, but missiles are kind of a generalized man thing, and war, and there's no getting around it. It's a thing. So I'm kind of calling the men out who make war out as the toddlers and the children that they are, because they're acting like children. They're not acting like grown-ups. And basically I'm saying that you guys are so excited about pushing that red button, and I think y'all need a snack and a nap. You all need a snack and a nap. You need to just stand down, shut the fuck up, have a snack and a nap.
Yes.
So
or just a lethal injection, really.
Yeah, I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. And if men had to give birth, they would not be so cavalier about killing it.
Yes.
It's not a little thing. So
And then Rebecca, she's coming up to play the show, the Mosswood show with us, and she's working on a song called Side Eye, and she's from Montreal, so she's singing it in French and American, and it's going to be slow, and I'm really excited about that song. Hoping she'll bring another one also. And then Tina, our drummer, she is writing a song about aliens, and it's her voice. It sounds like the Disney princess, and I'm like, we need to make it Frightwig. It needs to go da 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 da, alien, alien. So she's really working on that song, and Mia is like so helpful with her. Tina's totally talented, but it's just she has a hard time writing songs. So we're spending a lot of time on that with her.
Yeah,
it's so catchy. Yeah. Oh my God, it's been in my head all week.
We're gonna have it's really a really personal album. It's the first side's going to end with a ditty that Mia and her daughter Lalik wrote in the car in traffic called I'm a Nut Behind the Wheel. And I think the only instrument's like a kazoo. I'm a nut behind the wheel. I'm a nut behind the wheel. And then the second side will be this piece that's I think we're calling it A Mother's Lament right now, and it's just a nice piece of a pretty piece of music with the sentiments when Leon was a boy and me and I are talking on the phone, he was like maybe 8 or something. And she's like, he wants to go out, but I have to do the dishes. I'm like, just Mia, the dishes will always be there, but he won't be there. And so that's the lyrics of this piece.
Right.
And it's slow and it's pretty and it's just a few words about that.
Good. Yes, there's a lot to sing about, isn't there?
There certainly is.
And that was me in conversation with two of the members of the band Frightwig. That was Deanna and also Mia. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 show. In the meantime, have a great week. Stay safe.